Hello everyone, this is Jessica with Black Travelers Network, and today's story is brought to you by Quartz Africa. Quartz Africa is an online business news outlet. And before I get into today's story, I just want to give you a quick encouragement to hit the subscribe button. It always helps us to know that there are those of you out there who are tuning in and paying attention to the stories that we bring forward that will connect you to the Black experience throughout different parts of the world. And so with that being said, the name of this article is How Africa's Largest Airline Will Dominate the Continent's Skies. So which airline is Africa's largest airline? None other than Ethiopia Airlines. With a mix of strategy and investments and partnerships, airline acquisitions, and efficient service delivery, Ethiopian Airlines hopes to take over Africa's skies and change air travel on the continent. Last week, the carrier announced it bought a 45% stake to revive Zambia Airways, which went into liquidation way back in 1994. The airline is also in talks with other African governments, including Ghana, to relaunch their national carriers. Last year, negotiations to manage Nigeria's biggest private airline, Arik Air, fell through, but the company has already reportedly expressed interest in two other initiatives in Africa's largest market. Ethiopian Airlines already operates Malawian Airlines through a deal signed in 2013 and partners with privately owned Sky Airlines through a hub in the country of Togo. The determination to spread itself across the continent is driven by its overarching strategy to establish multiple hubs that will help the airline achieve its goal. What is the airline's goal? Well, Ethiopian Airlines, their goal is to ease connectivity between airports. Why do they want to do this? To cash in on the growing air travel market in Africa. How do they plan to do this? Well, they plan to do this by establishing multiple hubs throughout the continent and also outside the continent. Under its Vision 2025, the airline not only wants to become the leading aviation group in Africa, but also improve passenger and cargo transport, increase airport services, and expand its aviation academy. By becoming the missing link, analysts say Ethiopian could facilitate the flow of investment, trade, and tourism. If all goes to plan, it could also connect smaller and secondary airports, increase competition, and eventually make Africa's airspace travel friendly. Ethiopian has been expanding even as some of its larger rivals have been struggling in a difficult global airline sector. Government-owned South African Airways has been flirting with bankruptcy and seeking investors for some time now. Kenyan Airways has also struggled financially in recent years, but hopes its new Nairobi to New York direct flight will help boost its fortunes. Michael Otino, a managing partner with Sedem Airline Solutions in Nairobi, says the airline has been unwavering in its ambition for years now. He says, and I quote, "This is the ultimate goal of Ethiopian, that every African capital or every African major city will at least have a flight connecting it a day." But to achieve this, Ethiopian knows that it would take more than remodeling its hub at Addis Ababa International Airport, expanding the runways, or providing free Wi-Fi. To properly challenge the glitzy air hubs in the Middle East and Europe, Otieno says that it will have to enlist the support of other African airlines. By doing this, Otieno says the airline will not only help improve connectivity, but also help transfer its 70-year expertise of airline management and profitability. He says they don't want to be seen as a monopoly, because you know very well that any business that grows to be a monopoly is, again, sometimes not very well received by everybody, end quote. Phil Hogg, the founder of the UK-based airline consultancy FPR Associates, says these efforts to connect more African cities might not be very smooth and may well face a political challenge in some capitals. Yet Ethiopia could see itself benefit from African Union sanctioned plans to open up the airspace in Africa and liberalize frequencies and tariffs. As such, airlines like Kenya Airways or South African Express might not see themselves as competitors to Ethiopian Airlines, but part of an integrated system to improve aviation in Africa. And this is a quote from Otieno that says, "The expansion is here. It is a given. And its success will depend on Ethiopian leveraging its position as a leading airliner and calling others to throw their backs into the whole effort to get the continent connected." That is, in a nutshell, the article that discusses Ethiopia's push to become the leader, Ethiopian Airlines' push to become the leading provider on the African continent. And just as a side note, one of the images you'll see on this video is the image of the African continent. This image shows 21 countries that have signed on to the single African air transport market. And I want you guys to take a second and look that up. What that is the single African airline transport market is a flagship project of the African Union Agenda 2063, an initiative of the African Union to create a single unified air transport market in Africa within the next 45 years. For anyone who has any sort of interest in anything entrepreneurial on the African continent, you definitely want to pay attention to airport services. The airport service industry is expanding very rapidly, and it's in a lot of ways still wide open. And so there are airports all over the continent that have a number of different plans over the next several years to expand, to improve, whether it's connectivity between international travelers and those travelers who are traveling within the context of the African continent. This expansion creates lots of opportunities for those of you who can look at a situation, identify areas of growth and possibility. And so I definitely want to encourage you to take a closer look at that single African air transport market plan. That is something that hopefully it'll get some of the creative juices flowing for you. And hey, we as travelers want to make sure that we're not just traveling to some of the most amazing places, especially on the African continent, but we're also taking stock of some of the possible business opportunities. And I can tell you, airport services is definitely a solid industry for those who have any sort of experience or desire to create or start a business, not just here in America, but also abroad. That is it for us on this story. Again, before we go, please hit the subscribe button. And you know, speaking of which, we do have a trip that's coming up in June 1st to June 9th. We are going to the beautiful country of Rwanda. I've actually seen Ethiopian Airlines flights from New York to Rwanda for as little as $725. And so if any of you are interested, I will drop information about our upcoming trips in the box below this video. Feel free to subscribe and stay tuned in to Black Travelers Network.